Okay, everyone. I have told you a little bit about Toni-Ann here. I am so excited to have her on. It's honestly such a pleasure every time I get to talk with you. You bring smile to my face. So welcome to the show.
Yes, super excited to talk to you today. And yeah, I love talking with you too.
Oh, thanks. So we were just having a ramble before the show and talking about all the things, and we're going to talk a bit about time today, and because it's so important. That is the one continuous that we have, right? Everyone has the same 24/7, unless you I just finished teaching my kids. Well, I guess I'm still in it in the history. We're doing the history of science this year. We're doing, I homeschool, and we're talking about the quantum world, which makes time all super weird. And so we were like, it's not always 24/7, but you know what? For the general life, it is always 24/7. So let's stick in there. But in case there's any weirdos out there listening to this, like me, who is like, well, it cannot be sometimes. I get you, but and let's be real here, in our day-to-day life, it's 24/7. Okay. So I want to get your story. I just find people's life stories and how they got to what they're doing, why they're so passionate about what they're doing. I find it so fascinating. So give us a little bit about you. Who is Toni-Ann, and how did you get to where you are?
Yes. First, let me just say thank you for letting me come on and talk to you. Like, I really, really
Yes.
appreciate it. So I am Tony, and I am a wife and mom first. I'm also a full-time dentist and reservist in the Navy, and the podcast host at Real Happy Mom. So I wear a lot of different hats. Um, I actually really love my life and love my job. I know a lot of people, they will do certain kind of side hustles or different passion projects to eventually get out of their full-time job, but I love my full-time job. I actually didn't really want to be a dentist in the beginning. I was a super environmentalist and wanted to save the world. And I had this big goal of being an advisor to the president on environmental affairs. And then I realized I don't like politics. So I quickly changed my mind. So the world of dentistry opened up because of my own issues, but I'm not going to get too much into that. But the part that I think I'll really connect with a lot of people who are listening is once I started working, I had just had my son. So I literally graduated in June, had my son in December. And so it was really challenging because I think a lot of times we have these ideas of what a mom is supposed to look like and what our lives are supposed to look like. And so I just thought that I was supposed to be doing all of these things, i.e., being there every second for my son, being there every second for my husband, making sure my house is spotless. And it's really not practical, especially as a mom that works outside of the home, to have all these things. Like, I couldn't keep up. And as a result, what was happening was I was pretty much burning myself out, completely lost my identity, did not know who I was, what I liked, any of those things, because I was totally engrossed in being this mom, good mom, quote unquote. If you're, you can't see me, I'm doing the quotes, good mom. I was trying to be this good mom and just completely let myself go in the process. And the reason why I say that is because I remember the day that it was shortly after my maternity leave. My maternity leave was very short, by the way. I got back, and a few months later, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and he was like, yeah, like all this stuff about like what he does with his kids or whatever. And then he was like, yeah, so what do you like to do for fun? And I was like, um, I don't know.
What is that?
I was like, I truly could not answer that question. And it like bothered me because like I was such a fun person before. Like, I love trying new things. I love, going to museums and, listening to different types of music and doing like fun adventures with my husband. And I truly could not answer that question. That's when I knew it had to change. So started connecting with other moms. Long story short, learned out I'm not a unicorn, and this is not something that is unique to me. And so I realized that other moms struggle with a lot of the same things I did, hence why I started Real Happy Mom. Because I think a lot of times we, as moms, we give into this dream or this lie or whatever it is that society or family has taught us. And we live this life that I don't think is authentic to us because we are individuals and we should be able to do what is good for us and for our families. And so that's the reason why I wanted to stay a real happy mom, because you can be a fake happy mom. I see a
Oh
lot of those
yeah.
all the time.
Super easily.
So I really want moms to be truly authentic to themselves, to their families, and truly be happy. And so yeah, that's not my new passion, helping moms to get systems, routines, and a better handle on time, because I think we were just talking about this, like we feel like we never have enough time, and I get it. Like I said, I wear a lot of hats, so I get you when you say I don't have time, but I've learned some ways to help with that. So long story short, that's it. Sorry, Nelly, that was a really long
No,
long-winded
no,
answer.
no. That was fascinating. And I'm also fascinated by the hats you do wear, because they are drastically different, but all, when you bring them down, all, stem from the same root. But being a reservist in the Navy, being a dentist, and being a podcaster for moms, there's a lot of different hats being worn, but there's a lot of space between those hats, which I find really fascinating. I have many hats too. And, but I'm a homeschool parent, and we own a conservation company, as a family. So the Sea Glass Company. So when you said I want to, save the world, I'm like, oh, I get that. Yeah. So we started that in 2018 in order to have something for our family, but also because we saw what was happening in the world and we wanted to do something about it. So high five to you. And, but yeah, I wouldn't want to be advisor to the president either.
That's a no.
No, thank you. I'm really thankful to, some people that are, but no, thank you. But anyway, so I get that, but I just really applaud you for having such three distinct, different hats in there that you wear, and they're all three so important. And thank you for being a reservist in the Navy, by the way. Thank you for
Thank you. I appreciate
yes,
that.
absolutely. Okay, so you talk about time a lot. You talk about routines a lot, and I want to kind of explore this place because I feel like there is a time confidence versus time lack mindset, right? And you're going to probably laugh at me, but back in the day, there was Saved by the Bell, like the original Saved by the Bell, right? Not this newfangled one, whatever. Wow, newfangled make me sound like I'm 90. So, but the original Saved by the Bell, and I forget her name, but she had the long wavy hair, and she it was toward the ends of the season or the series, and she was just getting all confused, and there was all these tests and everything, and she had this massive breakdown in her room. She's like, there's just not time, there's not any time, there's not time for anything. And every Jessie, I think was her name, maybe, every time I feel like, oh, I just don't have time for this, that is the image that comes into my head, and I'm like, I am on my floor crying, saying there is not enough time. And I have to get myself out of that. And because I think I didn't grow up necessarily, and I didn't have it instilled in me how to have time management before. It's something I've definitely had to learn in adulthood with all of the different hats that we wear. And so really, have you seen this when people are stuck in this time lack sense? Do you see them? How does that manifest on the outside that you see?
Yeah, definitely a lot of frustration
Yeah.
is the biggest thing that I see. And the biggest one, and when you say that, because I've talked to some moms and they're like, I just can't do like any of the stuff you're saying. And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, well, I just don't have time. And so I see a lot of people just giving up
Yes.
too. And then it's funny because like right before you hit record, we were talking and you were saying how it shows up in your finances too. And
Yeah.
I never thought about it until you said it. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, you're right. Cause I remember doing the exact same thing, being like, oh, it's not enough time, it's not enough money. Like, I just can't do anything. So
Right.
it definitely shows up in a lot of different areas of our lives. And I feel like you said, a lot of things are all connected. And that's one thing that I really learned a lot, especially during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
was that a lot of things that you think aren't necessarily important or aren't connected. Like, for instance, with our health and fitness and things like that, it can show up in that too as
Mm.
well. So you just don't take care of yourself, or you just stop eating the right foods, or you just don't get enough sleep, or you're not drinking enough water. Like everything is all connected, and it shows up in so many different places. And it's crazy how once you said the finances, I was like, yeah, and I can see it in all these other areas of the
Yeah.
life too.
Absolutely. So when you start the path of lack, if for lack of a more awesome word for that, but once you start the path of lack, it really does show up. You're like, oh, I don't have enough time to work out. I don't have enough time to spend with my kids. I don't have enough time to spend by myself. Right. So why try? And then what ends up happening is, and I only say this because I've experienced it a couple of times in my past, but I see it a lot, is you end up a person sitting in front of the TV watching, your third Netflix binge show, and you're like, I know this is all I have time for. I have no time. And I found it so interesting that the more I have added to my life as an adult, as I'm an author, coach, speaker, podcaster, homeschooler, business owner, all of these things, I have more free time in my life now than I did when I was doing less things, which makes no sense to some people, but it really does come down to a routine, right? Finding that routine and being a good steward of my time. And that's just a mindset shift that happens, and knowing my time is limited. I have no idea when my time is up, right? And that can seem dark to some people, but for me, it's very elevating. It's like, I don't know. So I'm going to take advantage of today, and I'm going to do everything I can today. I'm going to live for everything I can today. It's not to say I don't sit down and watch some Netflix binge shows sometimes, but it is not my main job. Right. So with that, and I mean, I see when people are in lack, there's stuff like anxiety, right? In all the ways that shows up. So in the stomach and the headaches, but how do you see it showing up in relationships when someone is in this state of lack? How do you see it showing up in their families?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Definitely a lot of disconnect, because I know, at least I'm gonna speak for myself, when I was in that I don't have time phase, like my marriage was a little
Hmm.
suspect. So I realized, like, I didn't even really know like what my husband actually liked and stuff, but he knew all these things about me because he pays attention. And so yeah, like I realized like it was a lot of things that I was not connected with him. And then
Mm.
with the kids too, I like looked at them one day and I'm like, when did you grow up? Like what happened? Like I thought you were still in 3T, now you're in like size small, like
Yeah.
regular kids clothes. So I think a lot of times we lose track of things, and then we start to feel like, oh my goodness, well, what else did I miss out on? And
Mm.
and things like that. But definitely with relationships, like it's totally, like for me, like I said, totally disconnected, just feeling isolated and things of that sort. But Nelly, really quick, you had brought up something. I wanted to say this before I
Mm.
forget, when you were talking about time and things like that. And what came to my mind was how a lot of times we say we don't have time for things, but there's a lot of other things that are sucking our time. And there's
Mm.
three major time sucks that I talk about a lot,
Oh,
that
do share.
yeah. So when you said, I was like, I have to tell you this, Nelly, and then we can move back on. But the three major time sucks that I have found, and there's a whole bunch others, but especially now in this day and age with technology, is email,
Mm.
social media, and TV. Those three things, you will be surprised how much time you're spending on things. And it's crazy, because I remember thinking, like, I like wrote down and estimated like how much time I was spending with those three things. I was totally wrong. It was like three times the amount that I had wrote down. It's crazy. Like, and the thing that I have, like, finally I've gotten to the point where I just delete the apps off of my phone so I don't
Mm.
even get distracted. Because even if you put those timers, you know how like the iPhone, and even with my Samsung over here, like you can put on there like, oh, only give me 30 minutes a day, but you can still like, get out of that little 30 minutes and get
Oh
an
yeah.
extra 30 minutes more. So I like finally had to just delete the apps, because I was
Mm.
spending so much time just mindlessly scrolling.
Hmm.
And that 30 minutes could be 30 minutes that you use towards spending time with your family or whatever it is that you need to do to improve your life or to work towards your goals. But those 3 time sucks, I'm telling you, pay attention. Right now, my biggest thing is email. Like I check my email so many times. It's really embarrassing. Like I'm like, why? It's like
I'm right there
really
with
like a
you.
habit. I'm like, as soon as I pick up my phone, it's email, like it's just a habit. So I'm about to delete the email app, like, or at least like make it so it's not as accessible. But it's crazy how much time we're spending, and you'll realize like I do have time for things. It's just I'm spending it in other places. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
throw that out there.
Oh, that is so good though. That is so good. And notice that all three of those are screens. I am not an anti-screen person. I'm not an anti-social media person. I think great things can come from it. Great things have. There's also a really dark side and a slippery slope that can hurt you on the other side of that. So I think, thank you so much for, bringing that up. And TV, especially, the other day, one of my 14-year-olds, she was on her phone, and we allow them to have 30 minutes a day. And there's the timer, on the iPhones, you can look over, swipe over and see what the screen time is. And it tells you a breakdown. If you don't know this as a parent, swipe over. I think you swipe to the right, and there is a breakdown of they spent this much time on this app, this much time on this app, this much time on this. Anyway, so she was sitting there and I was like, so be sure to watch your time. And, it's their responsibility. It's not mine to, be how many minutes do you have left? Right. And so she was like, Mom, I've only been on here for like 12 minutes. And I was like, okay, so I'm just curious. I was like, why don't you swipe over and see what your time is? And it had been 37. And I was like, she's like, I swear it was only 12 minutes. I was like, I know, but it's a really, it's like the Lotus Motel in Percy Jackson. You go in there and you lose all track of time. So, anyway, you can very easily just like, and with the shows, just one more, one more, it's fine. One more. And then there's another 42 minutes gone, another 42 minutes gone. Yeah. So, so good. Okay. So what is so important? So we know some of the time sucks now, and we know the effect that it can have on our kids. And actually right before we move on, just a quick, like, how can you apply this? Right before we came on, one of my daughters came in, and she was like, she did her, like, she sat down on the couch. I was downstairs, and she was like, oh, I had this dream last night. And I was like, okay, so I know this is a cool 10 minutes, right? This story is going to be a cool 10 minutes. And I didn't have 10 minutes. And so instead of just being like, yeah, I got to go, I just told her, I want to give you all of my attention, and I can't do that right now. So I'm going to go do what I need to do. And then we're going to circle back on this later. And I want to hear all about this dream. Right. And so later on today, we'll sit down eyeball to eyeball, and she will tell me the intricacies of this probably very strange dream that she had. But my point is that this is how, like, very simply, you can put some of these things into practice. But tell me a little bit about why are routines important? So what is so great about the routine, and how do you set these up?
Yeah. So routines are really important. I think a lot of times when you think about routines, we think about them as more so for kids and babies in particular, like, oh, I have to make sure that their nap time routine
Mm,
is this way. But really, I feel like routines are for us because routines serve it for many different purposes. The big one is for me, it serves as an anchor. So we know that, whenever I do these certain things, it will at least bring some sort of stability to our lives. And back to learning things from 2020 and the pandemic, I think a lot of the anxiety that we were having is we had a lot of things taken away from us, and there was a lot of uncertainty. But routines give us some of the feeling of, okay, at least I know for certain this, and this is going to happen, so that you can start to feel calm and not feel so anxious. So
mm,
that's when 2020 was being itself, I had to adjust those routines so that I wouldn't feel so anxious and wouldn't feel, so overwhelmed during the day. And then also too, they provide like really healthy habits. And important sleep cycles, going back to the nap time
mm.
routine. And then lastly, I think I kind of said it a little bit, but it brings that predictability to your day, because life happens. Things don't always go according to plans, but at least not necessarily saying that you have to do things at a certain time of the day, but when you activate that routine, being whether it's in the morning or in the evening, that, okay, all right, at least I got this, and that will bring things back to being a little bit more predictable in your life. So for moms, there's a couple routines that I really think if you have absolutely none, there's a couple that I think would be really helpful to get you started. The three that I think are really helpful to have are a morning routine, evening routine, and a Sunday routine, or a routine that prepares you for the week.
Mm.
My big one that I love to talk about is my Sunday routine, because I am a believer. I will stand on top of the rooftops and I will tell you this: if you do this every Sunday before the week starts, your week will go by so well. Even though life will happen, you won't be so, or like, reactive. You won't, it won't be as chaotic as if when you don't do it, because I have gone into weeks where I did not implement my routine, and I was just like, oh, where's my stuff again? Like, where's this? Like, I'm telling you, it makes things go so much smoother for you, so you don't have those, Monday scaries, or feeling like, oh gosh, here we go on Monday. At least you're like more prepared, like, okay, I'm ready for Monday, like, let's go. So a lot of people get annoyed with me because I tell them like Monday's my favorite day of the week. Part of the reason why Monday's my favorite day of the week is I'm a huge wrestling fan, and Monday Raw comes on Monday nights. So that's like one of the big reasons, but also too is the start of something new, start of a new week. So yeah, I really think that those routines are truly, truly helpful in helping us to have that predictability, for having that anchor, like I was telling you about, in your life, so that you're not feeling like scattered and all over the place.
It is so true. And I do agree, for the parents, it's huge. Some friends of ours and young couple that we mentored just had a baby, and she's about 3 weeks old now. And so think about that. When our babies are little, and there is no routine, it is pure survival, diapers and feeding, right? And does that feel good, right? You're so in love with your baby, and there's all this, going on, but you don't even know if it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. You don't know when you last showered. You don't know what is going to happen, right? And so that type of mindset can be what happens when we don't have a routine, and maybe minus a few dirty diapers, or maybe with them. And so, but yeah, we can get into that place. But with the kids, I know that since I homeschool, one of the things that we were able to do is we have a big board downstairs. I have a double-sided whiteboard, and I homeschool in the way that I'm actually up at the board teaching. There's 90,000 different ways to homeschool. That's just the one that we do. And so, but on one side of the board, it has all of, like, Monday through Saturday, this is what you can expect. Can we diverge from this? Absolutely. If there's a field trip, if something happens, whatever, but you can generally expect this. And then anything that's coming up, we have a spring break trip. We don't this year, but if we did, that would be there, and all of these things. And it was really helpful for them to see that, but also you get so much less questions as the parent, right? Which, mom, what are we doing now? What is today? What time is it? What are we doing? Go look at the board. Or, if they know a routine, then that is a lot less pressure on you too. So that's huge.
Yes, it is. And then for them too, like, they know like what to expect too. So it makes it a whole lot easier, especially
Mhm.
when their days go a little cray. But the other thing too, I just remember, Nelly, really quick,
Yeah.
is that, a lot of times, like I was saying, we think about it for the kids, but just imagine you go to work and your boss doesn't tell you what time you're going to get off, what time you're going to have lunch,
Mm.
if you're going to have a break. Like, that's what it's like when you don't have routines. Like, you're like,
Yes.
what, wait, like, I
Yeah.
can't go home yet. So those routines give you that predictability and makes it go by like a lot smoother for you.
Right. And productivity too, because, and that's a perfect example that you just shared. If you go to work and you're like, I don't know when I have lunch, I don't know when I go home. So I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to think about that instead of
Mhm.
actually being productive and doing what I'm supposed to do. But if you have these parameters, this is where for me, routines come into so handy, right? Because if I know I have time for everything that I need to do today, and if this 2 hours is set aside for writing or podcasting or, coaching or what have you, then I am going to fill these 2 hours with that. And then I'm going to be able to switch gears and do something else that I need to do. But it gives space for everything when you're doing a routine. So it actually frees up so much of your time. It doesn't constrain it. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. So what do you do on Sundays?
Yes, yes. So Sundays, it's five key things. We can break these down if you want to, but I'm gonna give them to you really quick.
Okay.
So five key things. I feel like you do these, it'll make your life so much easier. So one is not necessarily in any order. I'm just gonna throw them out there. So one is getting your clothes ready for the week.
Mm.
Two is planning out and preparing for your week in your calendar, whether it's electronic or paper. Three is planning out your meals. Four is cleaning out your purse, bag, whatever it is that you use on a regular basis. And then five is restarting your devices. These five things I have found that when you implement this, it makes things go by a whole lot smoother, especially since, like I said, now we have a lot of this technology and devices don't tend to act right, especially when you want them to. It will make it go a lot easier when you have all of these things done before Monday rolls around.
So speaking of, so with restarting devices, are you just talking about like a
Mhm.
reboot of them?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens is a lot of times when you have like your phone or your computer running, you have a lot of programs and things running in the background, and over
Mm.
time, it slows your computer down. It causes it to crash, or in the middle of us having this conversation, boom, hey, do you want to do an update? No, I don't. Oop, click the wrong button, and now we're doing an update. It prevents all of those things from happening. So yeah, doing a code like reboot of everything will help to close all of those programs out so that you don't have all the crashes and unexpected technical difficulties throughout the week.
Oh, that is awesome. I haven't thought of that. My computer's you don't want to know how long it's been on for. So, but with and restarting devices just reminded me of this. I was actually at a retreat. We were at my husband and I are youth leaders. And so we were at a retreat not too long ago. And, they were talking about social media and not just social media, but just all the apps on your phone. And so we had like an obscene number of hours in a bus ride with these 40 kids. And it was a lot of fun, but so many hours. I think it was 23 hours on a bus. And so anyway, I just looked at my phone and I was deleting and deleting and deleting. I ended up deleting over 70 apps from my phone. And granted, my kids, download these weird games, if we're somewhere. So they've downloaded a lot over time, but a lot of them are mine too, that I'm like, I don't do this at all. Right. And so, that's just something that you could do. I don't know if you want to do it every, Sunday for everything, but just it popped into my mind. There's so much stuff on your phone that you do not use. And my battery now lasts easily twice as long as it used to. Easily. So good. And I wasn't even using the, I don't know, Dragon City app, but it was somehow eating up my battery. So there's that. I love the idea of a clean purse or bag or car, whatever you have. Whenever we get back from church on Sundays, because as many times as I tell my kids, bring everything out of the van that you guys brought in. There is so much stuff left in there. You're like, where did this even come from? And so, yeah, that for me is like my clean out. And I was like, oh, I could see the black interior of the van again. Awesome. And so that's awesome. And then meals. And when we were talking about that predictability, that what are we having for dinner, mom? Right. Oh, it's so much easier to be like, oh, it's up there. It's on the menu. Right. So good.
Yeah. I love that's the question that irritates me the most is what are we having for dinner? Don't ask me, like go figure something out. So
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
having the meal card with everything on there is so helpful.
Oh, so good. And I don't know if you and your house have this, but we have this in our house where we have, we call them grab bag nights. And it's just like we get back from youth, for example, on Wednesday nights at like 9 o'clock. And then as many times as we try, we just never have dinner before we go. We just like having dinner in the fives is just unimaginable for some reason for our family. So having dinner at 9, we're like, I don't know, open up a can of corn and see what you got, and whatever that is. So we have grab bag in there and they know that is fend for yourself night.
I like that one. That one's good.
Yeah, yeah. But tell me about the clothes. So do you like
Yeah.
get them literally all out, or do you just plan them out, or?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, I literally take them all out. So it's a lot easier because I wear a uniform to work. So it's not too much to think about. But the problem is, Nelly, a lot of the reason why I'm saying do these 5 things is because these are some of the things that will take up a lot of brain power because
Mm,
as moms, like we make a lot of decisions and have to think about a lot of things. And I had learned about this whole thing about decision fatigue a while ago,
mm.
and it is a real thing that we suffer from as moms.
Hands
So
down.
I truly believe if you set things up for yourself so you don't have to think about them, it at least prevents this decision fatigue from happening, and makes it so that you don't feel like so stressed out throughout the day or in the middle of the day, because that's typically when I notice things start to break down. Because usually when you get to that point of decision fatigue, one or two things I've noticed have happened is either one, you don't make any choices at all, or two, you make some really poor choices.
Yeah.
So, like I said, by having these decisions already done and made for you, it makes it so much easier for you to just kind of go throughout your day and use that decision making power on things that are important, not should I wear stripes or should I wear polka dots? Like, let's use that on something more important. So, yeah, going back to your question, I literally will look at, what I have going on for the week. So, for instance, I know I'm working Monday through Thursday. I'm getting all of my stuff out on the hanger so I can see, okay, I can have it already. I go as far as putting my underwear and socks on the hanger too. So I literally don't have to look for anything. I just grab it and go. I also
Hmm.
look at, do I have like anything in particular coming up as far as any special meetings? If I'm drilling that weekend, do I need to have my uniform ready for drill? Um, any special date night or anything like that, just go ahead and have it ready. Because how many times have you like wanted to wear something in particular and oh, you found out you have a hole in it, or oh, there's an ugly stain. And now it's like, oh, what am I going to wear now? So now you take another, 15-20 minutes trying to figure out what to wear. But also, too, it can help you, to be more prepared. So, like, for instance, if I have like a uniform inspection, I know, okay, I need to make sure I take this to the cleaners on Monday so that it'll be ready by the time I'm ready to go on Friday. So, yes, I will take everything out, plan it out. Also, looking at the weather and, like I said, what events I have going on for the week. So, again, I'm not using my decision making power on what I'm going to wear. I'm going to use it on something more important.
So it sounds like a lot, but honestly, what you're saying, you spend 15 minutes, maybe, right, doing this one thing, and it will save you that 5 to 10 minutes every day, right? That you're trying to figure it out. So 5 to 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, I mean, you could be talking about almost an hour deciding on what to wear, right? And then, oh my goodness, yeah, if you have a busy day and then you take down a sweater and see that there's a hole in it, you're like, ah, nothing is going right. The whole day is terrible.
Oh, yes.
And the bombs start falling and it's 7 a.m. And so yeah, it's a fantastic idea. And I tried to have the next days ready, but I work out every morning. It's part of my morning routine, so I make sure that part is ready. But man, maybe I should start putting out like my day clothes too, not just my workout clothes. So
Try it. Just try it for a week
yeah,
and see. Because I do my workout clothes too. Like I'll have those out because, like I said, I get everything ready. So
yeah.
I have the workout clothes out too, so I can just grab that and go to the gym because I like to do morning times.
Mm,
It just makes it a lot easier and I feel a lot better. But
yeah.
yeah, having it all out. I know a lot of moms will be like, but what if I'm just staying home? Still, like again, you're
Yes.
using that decision making power on something that you could use it on something else.
Well, let's pause there for a second because I do want to say, so even if you are staying home, do not stay in the same outfit all
Please.
day. Yes, yes. You want to move. So my youngest, or not my youngest, one of my middle daughters, she comes in and works out in the morning when I do. And so as part of our schooling, our PE, whatever, everyone has to work out 20 minutes a day. And you can decide what that is, but I want them to get into the habit of moving 20 to 30 minutes every day. Right. So my point being though, she was coming down, like literally she would roll out of bed and walk downstairs. She's on the third floor, so we're on the second floor. She would roll out of bed and come downstairs, walk into this room that I'm already working out in, one eye like still kind of closed, and she's wearing her pajama bottoms, her, big old baggy sweatshirt and all this, and she would work out. And I'm like, no. So you actually need to like put your hair up, put a bra on and get some workout clothes on so that you can actually be in the mindset of now, sleep time is over. Now it is move time. Right. And that's just an example that happened, this week that we had to work on. And so, anyway, but if you stay in the same clothes all day long, those yoga pants are comfy. I'm not going to lie. They are very comfy. Right. But if you stay in them all day long, then you're still in bed in your mind all day long. Right.
Definitely. I know there's some people who live in their PJs and who actually get things done, but I truly believe like you do gotta like, you know, get yourself dressed in for whatever it is that you're getting ready to do, whether working out, doing the garden or going to work. Like you got to get ready.
Yeah, I do a lot of time on Zoom, and there is the whole, like, especially since COVID came, the whole, what is it, business on top, party on the bottom, or sleepy on the bottom, type thing, the work mullet with your clothes that they were talking about. But I promise I'm wearing pants right now, and so, but I have found, and there's some times when I work in different time zones, if I'm like, if it's past 9 o'clock, I got my PJ pants on, even if I'm doing, Australian podcast or what have you. But other than that, get dressed. It will change your mindset. It will be so much better. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been a great conversation. And can you tell everybody where we can find you?
Yes, yes. So if you are listening right now, just go up to the search bar and type in Real Happy Mom. You'll find me there on the podcast. And then online, I'm at realhappymom.com and all over social media at Real Happy Mom. Trying to keep it simple for you. So Real Happy Mom,
Yes.
that's where to find me.
I am just also super impressed that you got Real Happy Mom as your
You
IRL.
know what? Let me tell you something, Nelly. When I first started it, I told my husband, I was like, babe, we got to claim everything. So before I even decided on that name, I made sure I had it everywhere.
That is so impressive to me. Like, I swear you could, like, snuffleupagus.com or whatever is taken these
Mhm.
days. So the fact that you got Real Happy Mom, that's kudos to you. So
Thank
way
you.
to think forward. That is awesome. So, well, thank you so much for being here and being a part of our talk today.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, it is all about routines. And so we will be back next week with another episode. And remember, just keep teaching, keep laughing, keep loving. And remember, above all, to just keep showing up with intention during this 6,570 days that we have in this parenthood, childhood experience, because they really do need you. Today, we talked about routines. Imagine what could happen if they have that time respect, that time responsibility, and time confidence before they ever leave home, and how that can set them up for a positive future. So use what you have, and I will see you next week. All right. Bye, guys.